Hi, I'm Brandon William Fletcher, a director, photographer, visual effects artist, and founder of Faked Potatoes, a creative studio based in Vancouver on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. My images and work have been commissioned by a wide range of clients, including M83, Manila Gray, James Reed, Curtis Waters, Warner Music Group, Universal Music, Blonde Diamond, and Candle. In a past life, I was the creative director and manager of the award-winning Canadian live music venue Habitat in Kelowna, as well as the creative director for the award-winning Peak Performance Project. Creating a world, a mythology, a story, it helps people recognize you immediately. Think about the short attention span that most consumers have these days. How do you stand out from the deluge of content coming at them all day, every day? Cohesive and consistent branding should stand out, speak to, and connect you with your target audience. Once they're a fan of you, how do you make yourself recognizable or easy to find, even when they're not looking for you? Ideally, your whole branding exercise will help to define what makes you different and special, but what does cohesive branding look like? First, it can't be overstated that branding is not just a logo. And I'm sure this has been told to you before, but it bears repeating. Branding is going to be your total package. So that familiarity you breed around your branding for your audience could be anything, or more likely a handful of things. Once you narrow in on some of those details, you might find that some of the visual elements just fall into place. It may be consistent photo shoots like the band Tennis engages in. Some artists have very specific rules about how they're captured when it comes to promo and live shots of them in concert. I can think of one specific time that I received a list of photo rules from A-list talent we were shooting at a major festival, and I gotta be honest, at first I laughed to myself. It seemed a bit contrived. Like, who did they think that they were? But almost immediately, I thought back to any photos I'd seen of them live. And sure enough, the rules were followed, and it built this strong and consistent look that people came to expect from them. Maybe it's the single covers on this release cycle, something that I like to call cousin designs. Or overall art that covers more than a decade of a career, as in the case of Justice. You can tell quickly and almost without any thought that these pieces are all from the same artist. A branded shoot should be deliberate and considered. If you can have already established some of your brand before the shoot, that'll put you in the best spot possible. And if you haven't, how do you know what the best type of shoot is? Is it an indoor stylized shoot? Outdoors with more natural light? What type of clothing will you wear? What style or era? Colors, fit, texture. How does it advance or strengthen your story or brand? The amount of times that I've seen a group hit the stage and wonder how they even met in the first place based on their outfits is staggering. Look, you don't have to look like a cohesive band with a cohesive brand, and you don't even have to look like you know each other. Again, this is just an example. I don't want you to get caught up in the specific details because maybe your brand is that each of your members is a character. But I can tell you with 100% confidence that these artists did not have that conversation, and this was not deliberate. It wasn't even considered. Knowing what your brand is acts as a sort of compass for all of the decisions after that. When you're deep in the weeds and not sure if your project is headed in the right direction, your brand acts as a guide in those moments to help you realign. It makes me think of a moment from Blade Runner. So Ridley Scott was working with a costume designer to try to figure out what jacket Zora, played by Joanna Cassidy, should wear while Ford's Deckard grills her. The whole moment acts as a moment of clarity for Deckard. He's trying to find out this truth, and they had a bunch of different jackets to choose from. So while looking at these different trench coats, we're having this moment. Ridley's thinking, what's the most accessible moment for this? What's the theme of this scene? What's the theme of the story? And a lot of it came down to lies, transparency, secrets. There's a transparent trench coat there, one that's become hugely known in most circles when it comes to any kind of costume design for film productions. And this was perfect. It was see-through. It played with that theme. So you can see how immediately knowing what your story is about will direct something when it comes to a costume design question or a set deck question. This clarity will come. Another thing it makes me think of is an artist who was recording an album. And he put together this mood board that was up on the wall while the songs were coming together. So while he's working on a song, while these pieces are coming, while he's pulling this EP together, he wants to know, is this song orange enough? Does it fit this moment enough? When you have all these different pieces and you want to explore, you want to try something new and different, But sometimes you just need to know what direction you're going. And this mood board, these themes, these moments, the brand can help you to realign a little bit. Specifically in the case of a photographic shoot, your brand will help you to establish this tone, the look, and the settings of it. If you don't already know what those would be, now is the time to start thinking about it. Gather inspo. You can look online and see what other artists are doing, and that can be good market research. But I would inspire you to expand your horizons when looking for inspiration. Go to art galleries, see live dance, read art history books or vintage magazines, watch old movies. Start to mine other mediums for inspiration, and who knows what you'll find or how you might alter or update something. Look at other photos of artists, people, or brands that you admire. If you're awkward in front of a camera, research poses online and practice them in front of a mirror. Hold on to all of these references and use them to come up with something kind of like a shot list. That way you'll make sure you're not forgetting anything on the day. Also, this is not the time to edit your list down either. If you're not sure if something quite fits into your vision, who cares? At this point, you're just trying to throw as much together as possible. Think of it as kindling or firewood. When you have everything and you take a big step back, you'll start to naturally see connections in the things that inspire you. And this is going to help you to pare away the things that don't fit in your vision. And maybe they just don't fit this current iteration of your vision. Who knows about down the road? You can hold on to them just in case. For example, my inspiration folder on Dropbox has 10,400 plus images in it and counting. And I never know where the next piece of information will come from, so who knows? All right, you've done some research. Now what? Mood boards, lookbooks, the power of them cannot be overstated. Working with other creatives can be so powerful. Collaboration can help shake loose new ideas and elevate all involved to greater heights. More than the sum of our parts, as they say. But it's important to remember that we all grew up in slightly different households with slightly different definitions of each word. Trying to direct another creative by saying you'd like to see something more dramatic isn't telling them anything at all, really. For one person, drama might conjure up the idea of high contrast, saturated and sharp images. For another person, it might mean dark clouds, and a third may think it means yards and yards of flowing fabric. Video and photography are visual mediums, so speak in visual terms. The last thing you want when working with someone is to receive the final product and think, well, that wasn't at all what I expected, and now the money's spent and no one's happy. A mood board can put you on the same page from the get-go, and may lead to the kinds of yes and or no buts that lead to truly unique art. The imagery on the mood board might not even always be literal. For myself, it can be used to convey vibe, color, set deck inspo, textures, and on very rare occasions, many of these things at once if an existing reference point can be found in existing media. But what it really does is help to convey to the photographer, or cinematographer, or director, production designer, set deck, props, stylist, hair, makeup, you get it, more specificity in your vision, or at least a starting point to further refine what you're both looking to achieve. It all comes back to defining your brand. Look, I get it. We don't all have DSLRs or mirrorless cameras or video cameras at our disposal. But most phones have pretty great cameras and a surprising amount of manual control over them. In your native camera app, many of you know you can click on a spot and that camera's gonna focus. But if you click on a spot and you hold it there, you're gonna see that square ring focus in a couple times. And now that means we have a locked focus. So as I'm turning my camera, you're gonna see that that's not flickering or changing at all. This is a really great tool, especially if you wanna get something like shallow depth of field. I'll close on my watch, lock it again, and you can see everything remains blurry, but the foreground element stays there. I can also drag my finger up or down to adjust the exposure manually. I can make sure my highlights aren't clipping for full control over the image. That way we don't get that annoying thing where the camera's constantly trying to adjust for different lights as we're moving it around. And again, this might be the thing that you're looking to do, but it's not gonna help a ton. So here's an example. Look at, if we're gonna get this exposure, hey guys, Liam, I can adjust this for the perfect image I want for both people. Beauty. Okay. Right, now let's talk a little bit about lighting. Inevitably, you're going to be using the front-facing camera on your phone. It might be for a Zoom call, it might be to record content for an application, but you're going to need some light on you. We're going to focus primarily on front-facing light. I've got a beautiful backlight here that you can see, but that's a little bit more than you need to do here. What that really is doing is separating me from the background. It's making me more obvious to see, but we want to prioritize your front-face lighting because that's going to be what you have access to. So as I'm moving around here, you are going to be able to see my face changing as I get nearer and further from these different light sources. We can position them at specific spots. This makes me think of Rembrandt lighting. We've been using it for 400 years. This Dutch master painter figured out this beautiful lighting that he used in most of his portraits. So if we're still using it, it's got to work. Basically, he would place people by a large open window, and that natural sunlight would be coming down from 45 on the side and then another 45 at the front. And what that light does to your face, you can see it cast this nice shadow, it creates some depth, and a little light triangle on the side of my face. That's how you know you got a Rembrandt light. Not only that, because I've got professional lighting here set up by these guys, you can already see a nice little bit of a kicker here. That's this bounce. That's coming from a light over here. This is set lower and further away from me, and that gives my face a little bit of shape. If we're kind of in the middle, or if we have too much of one, we're facing it on, it's going to look a little bit more flat. You might have seen makeup artists and beauty lifestyle people on YouTube and Twitter and TikTok using ring lights. That'll give a little bit of a circular, a nice soft light on the face. Similar thing. It depends on your brand, right? It might be more dramatic. It might be that soft, even lighting, soft for your face. We can use these tools. If I click, hold, adjust my exposure. Now I could walk through this building and know that even if my face isn't always lit, hey guys, that it's going to stay looking like this. And then, oh, that's nice. Find stuff. So walk around the room. Find some beautiful spots for your computer. Maybe if you're going to be doing recordings, put it by the window. Make sure the window's on your right or your left and a little bit towards the front of your face. And that's going to create a nice little side light on you. When treating your final image, I got to say that's another great spot where a lookbook or a mood board will come in handy. A lot of my work is inspired by films and photography from the middle to the late 20th century. The mediums, the techniques of the 30s through the 80s especially. For me, that often means mimicking the same lighting as the time, and treating my final images to look more like film. Sometimes it's specific film stocks, but more often it's just a combination of elements that are all mixed up until they feel right. A lot of the time, it even takes the image too far from what might have been authentic at the time. But I love creating a version of those old techniques, as run through a little bit of the nostalgia machine. Your brand might be bright and poppy colors with crisp images, or dark with heavy shadows and lots of film grain. There are a lot of apps out there now that can help you treat your photo or video to get more in line with the style of content that you're aiming to deliver. And most of them are constantly updating with new filters and layouts that can help save you a lot of time while generating content. Some even have subscription features that let you load in your brand's logo and color palette to help speed things up when designing. I think of content types as almost as important as how often you post, honestly. Maybe you and your audience like a slow and steady stream of content, a couple posts a month. Maybe you're more into 5 stories or a few TikToks a day. If you're listening to yourself and your audience, I think you'll find pretty soon what style suits you. This is maybe a good time to review what the similar artists to you are doing and research your competitors. Yes, comparison is the thief to joy, but it can also sometimes help get you a frame of reference. What kind of things are they posting? How often are they sharing? Does it seem to be working for them? Are there gaps in their video or photography content that are immediately obvious and apparent to you? Look, let me tell you, as someone who produces mostly video content, I'm also a bit of a curmudgeon when it comes to the topic of video being king. I loathe the push in most social media and marketing spheres to move towards it at the expense of photos or even well-thought-out text. A friend even recently pointed out to me, you need to stop posting horizontal videos, as if it was self-evident that they drive less engagement on Instagram, which is completely true, but in this moment. Over an 18-month period, I've seen Instagram allow rotation, and then not, and then allow it again from certain access points in the app, and then not again. And personally, I don't really feel like shifting the aspect ratio of each product that I create based on the contemporary whims and mood swings of a social media company. I personally am simply unwilling to compromise my vision thanks to established brand traits. And I don't want to get too deep into the techniques to trick algorithms because these apps and algorithms are always changing. And anytime that I see marketing advice over 18 months old on any of them, it feels like it's immediately irrelevant. Instead, let's go back to the branding and build the right look that you're going for. Knowing your brand, knowing yourself can help sharpen your intuition to the kinds of content that work well. Maybe it's more storytelling, taking your audience with you on the daily. Maybe it's dynamic tour photos and videos. Maybe it's behind the scenes content where you break down all the walls from other parts of your plan and let your audience really get to know you. Maybe it's jumping on every trend and putting your own unique spin on them. Trust your heart and get ready for the long game because these trends will come and go. If something doesn't make sense to you or if it doesn't serve you, avoid it. People can tell when you're being inauthentic. Respond to people. Even if you're putting out the best content, if you're only posting new single out now and tickets on sale now, CTAs, basically a call to action, you are constantly asking for something from your audience. So offer them something back. Whether it's more of that unfiltered content or behind the scenes or just engaging with their comments, all of these things can feel like you're giving something back. Try to think of any time an artist or a creative that you respected replied to in earnest. How did that feel? To be sure, people don't deserve all of your time, and you have to be precious with some of it. It may also behoove you to be aware of the types of parasocial relationships that can develop online from fans, but by and large, they should be genuine people looking to connect with an artist that they respect or admire. Who knows what you can learn from each other? So, to recap, cohesive branding is important. It creates an unspoken agreement between you and your audience. It grabs their attention and sticks in their memory. It means that at a glance, they may pick you out of dozens of other people vying for their attention, and it strengthens the story you're trying to tell. Research, research, research. Deep dive into all the inspiration possible and collect too much when planning for a branded photo or video shoot. You may not always know what you want, but you'll probably be able to find out soon what you don't want. And what's left over, that's a great starting point. When working with other visual creatives, speak the same language. Use what's left over to define your vision. Build that mood board or that lookbook, complete with notes if necessary, something you can easily share with collaborators to communicate your vision concisely. If you're using your own phone or photo for video content, take the time to focus and expose your image properly. And unless you're going for that authentic day in the life of, right? And who knows? But having the photo as close to what you want to see in the final before you start editing that means you're going to come a lot closer to achieving your vision. It's probably best to avoid following trends. Look inside yourself, look at your branding, look to your competitors for clues to help you figure out your own strengths, interests, and boundaries when it comes to video or photo content that keeps you relevant. Again, we don't always know where to start with what we want, so start by removing the noise, anything you don't want, and see what's left. Starting with these points should help you to be authentic, even if you're authentically a character. No one likes being sold to. I'm Brandon William Fletcher, and thank you for attending my Jumpstart Foundations Masterclass.